And we're out.
All right. Do it live.
All right, and just we'll
Do it live. I can don't write it and we'll do it live.
Fucking thing sucks anyway.
N3 Radio
in the mix.
Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Don't Tread on Me. I'm your co-host, Beach Ball. As you know, Mad Dog wants to have the best quality podcast possible. He's getting new equipment, so I'm here as your co-host to give you an update on what's been going on in the world of culture, politics, and current events. So tonight we have a couple of videos from around the world of YouTube, so here's the lineup for tonight. We have Geeks and Gamers Lucasfilm employees use Game of Thrones petition to troll Star Wars fans. We have The Quarterings, games journalist goes too far, and Xbox CEO Phil Spencer wants to be your dad. World-class bullshitters with CW's Batman as the new Captain Marvel. Journalism is overrun by sociopath activist bullies, and Democrats move to appeal the Electoral College with Tim Pool of Timcast. We have cancel culture and the politics of Schadenfreude with Lauren Chen, and Sargon of Akkad, how do we convince people to listen? And we finish off with Jordan Peterson's How to Listen to Someone Else. Keep it tuned right here to N3 Radio, because you're listening to the second part of the May update of Don't Tread on Me with your co-host Beach Ball. Here we go.
What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Jeremy coming to you with another video, and today, Rian Johnson and Pablo Hidalgo continue to mock and taunt and troll Star Wars fans. And as I said, every single time I see these people open their mouth and represent Star Wars, it just makes me hate Disney Star Wars a little bit more. Just a little bit more every time these people run their mouths. But they can't help themselves. This is what they do. This is from Data Racer 117. Great account. Go give Data Racer 117 a follow. Rian Johnson and Pablo Hidalgo wasted no time mocking the fan petition to remake Game of Thrones Season 8. Joke's on them, as Dylan D was low-key ripping TLJ to 1 million on Change.org. Lucasfilm does not respect Star Wars fan opinions and openly mocks them on Twitter. This is correct. So here we have Pablo Hidalgo making his, remarks, Change.org, the online pillow for the fandom to scream into. It's just, I love how Pablo's talking about a stupid circle when they're the ones that have their circle jerk. Their circle jerk where opinions are not allowed unless they are the opinions that Lucasfilm accepts as respectable opinions. They are the gatekeepers of opinions. I can't pull Pablo's account up because he has me blocked, but there's Rian Johnson making just a sarcastic remark about The Last Jedi and how hated it was and the petition or whatever. We have more blue check marks just joining in, and God, these people, imagine being this much of a kiss ass, you know what I'm saying? It's so pathetic. This guy, Adam, he's seriously just desperate to sit at the cool kids at Lucasfilm's table. He just is desperate. It's so pathetic to watch this happen. But yeah, it's true, man. It's true. I don't know exactly what Dylan D said in here. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so there's so much awful crap going on in the world. People like me need to escape into things like Star Wars and Game of Thrones. We fans invested a wealth of passion and time into the series. I've been watching religiously since Season 2 myself. I've read the books eagerly. I await the next two. I love this story, and like most of you, was crushed to see how the last season and Season 7, let's be real, has been handled. So yeah, definitely a person who's very unhappy with what's going on with Star Wars as well. And yeah, man, and here's, why aren't these people working on Star Wars? All they do is get on Twitter and complain about Star Wars fans. That's all they do. You know what I mean? And it's what are you trying to accomplish? Me, people go, well, all you do, Jeremy, is you get on YouTube and complain because I don't like what they've done to something that I love. They have completely destroyed Star Wars with feminism, with SJW politics, and with an attitude like this. And I've also heard people say, well, Jeremy, I hear you going after people on Twitter or responding to people. Well, first of all, I have dialed that back as our following has grown because I understand how that looks. But that's also who I am. That's just who I am. And I don't work for Lucasfilm. I work for myself. And that's just part of my brand. This is what people have come to know by me is I'm a sarcastic douchebag. This is what I am. Rian Johnson was not a sarcastic douchebag. until he made a troll film and people responded in a negative way, and suddenly Rian Johnson has become a very bitter and really egotistical troll. That's really all he is. Pablo Hidalgo is a miserable human being that plays the victim card. He blocked me on Twitter because something I said, but I will not get into, was completely misinterpreted by headlines. He didn't watch my video. He just responded to the headlines of what people were saying about my video and then accused me of things. So he blocks me, which is fine. That's fine. I mean, I don't care. But you can't be a troll and then get unhappy or get butthurt when someone responds to you in the similar fashion. Like when I'm sarcastic to people, the best thing you can do is be sarcastic back to me. That makes me so happy. I love when people give me sarcasm back. What I don't like is when you talk junk to me, I respond sarcastically, and then you cry. I don't like that. Respond back. Hit me back with my own sarcasm, and I'll be like, hell yes, that's what I'm talking about. Pablo couldn't take it. He can dish it out, but he can't take it. Typical sign of a far left-wing lunatic. Someone that is so obsessed with being the victim and thinking everybody in the world is racist and sexist that they don't even understand their own lack of self-awareness going on. But, again, more of the same from Lucasfilm. It's okay to attack the fans. It's okay to mock the fans. It's okay to dismiss any fan criticism. It's okay to do nothing but move your audience, your customers, out of what could potentially be a profitable situation. You're just like pushing them out. You're like, we don't care. We don't want you. We don't need you. You do, because a Solo is proof that you do. Bob Iger the other day said that The Rise of Skywalker, the fans are going to love it. Fans aren't going to show up to it if you continue to have people like this just completely dismiss them. Like, do you really think Pablo Hidalgo and Rian Johnson appreciate Star Wars fans? Like, if you really believe that, you're not paying attention. They do not. They seriously do not. And as long as this continues, it just makes me hate Disney Star Wars that much more. So anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You guys have a great day. Thank you very much for checking out this video. Ugh, Rian Johnson, man. The words can't describe how much I can't stand this person. He may be my least favorite human being. I mean, it might be to that point. This guy has no self-awareness. This guy has no respect for Star Wars, has no respect for the platform he has. He's just a miserable person that wants to make everybody else miserable with him. Have a great day. Talk to you later.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and we've got a good old-fashioned video games journalist roast. That's right. Now, many people often reach out to me and say, hashtag not all. And sure, hashtag not all games journalists are games journalists, even though I believe a journalist is very capable of transforming into a journalist at any given time. Just ask Jason Schreier, who seems to flip-flop from absolute joke to high-quality reporting on a weekly basis. Now, VG247 is kind of a mid-tier video games website. It's nowhere near as good as ExclusivelyGames.com as an example, but I wanted you to meet somebody. This is somebody who was promoted last spring. Kirk McKeand joined VG247 as deputy editor, and the site continues to rip apart 2018 like a rabid spider monkey. VG247 has hired a new deputy editor for 2018 as the world's greatest video game website, TM, solidifies its omnipotence in face of the wailing rivals. Remember this day, Kirk McKeand steps into the deputy editor role and will lead VG247 on its mission to deliver video games justice to the masses. Respected, loved, and feared in equal measure, Kirk has earned experience in news, features roles, as well as gaining a reputation as a tireless freelancer. Wonder why no one would offer him full-time employment. As I sit here inhaling the souls of broken game critics, I could not be happier that Kirk has joined the team at VG247, said Matt Martin, editor-in-chief of VG247. Many wanted him, and I feel privileged he chose us to advance his career. Well, welcome aboard. Welcome to VG 24/7, Matt. It's a little late. I probably should have invited you earlier, but as a general rule, I don't spend much time on mid-tier to trash-level video games websites except to make fun of them when I can, which is what brings me to today's stories. Now, I want to build up the man to give you an idea of the high-quality video games journalism that this destroyer of broken game critics can bring you. Let's take a look at just one article from last September. Oh no, people are mad about women in video games. This time it's Total War Rome 2. They are everywhere. In your garden, walking around the streets, teaching your children at school, creating things in pharmaceutical labs, flying into space in rockets, and there's good chance they might even be in your house. The scourge of women is upon us. Who would have thought that around 50% of humanity's population would spread this far? Yep, it's that time again. Angry babies are mad about women in video games. Today, it's Total War Rome 2's turn. The game has a mostly positive overall rating on Steam, but recent reviews are overwhelmingly negative. Women, says one negative review with over 40 hours of playtime recorded. Marxist propaganda, squeals another reviewer. With this one with a whopping 0.2 hours of playtime. WTF are women, says another reviewer who has probably never been kissed. Well, this type of vitriolic article puts you in the right mindset to know where Mr. Kirk spends his time. I don't know what it is. Can somebody explain to me by liking this video and then leaving a comment in the comment section down below why so many video games journalists have such disdain? Could you imagine going to work every day serving or being expected to serve the people you so clearly loathe? I'm not sure how I would get up every day. Well, I guess I would be a giant soy-infused child on Twitter like most of them, but I digress. And as CA says in the statement, the spawn rates of female generals hasn't changed, and each civilization's spawns rate are in line with culture. The only change is the addition of a family tree, which may see more women step in a general position due to marriage. CA has no plans to patch or change the spawns rate of women. High quality article. Angry babies are angry about other babies. Crude vitriolic reactions from another writer who probably never been kissed. Writing like that sounds pathetic, doesn't it? I'm not angry at all, mate. I think it's pretty pathetic, to be honest. It's quite embarrassing. And by the way, I get loads of kisses. So many. This is somebody that VG 24/7 was extremely proud to bring on as a deputy editor. Now comes today. One of you sent me a tweet, which I appreciate the watchdogging by my many viewers and people that choose to follow me on Twitter or Minds, because many of these high-quality video games journalists have me blocked. So I had to do a little Jason Schreier level investigation, as he would call it, by simply going into a private browser or logging out of Twitter to see Kirk McKeand. Here we go again. Okay, all right. Let's see. Here to kick butt and drink tea, and I'm all out of butt. Deputy editor at VG 24/7, award-winning jerk. Insults at Kirk.McKeand at VG 24/7 from England. If you're not aware of what's going on in England right now, there's some political races going on, and there's a bunch of children who think that throwing milkshakes at political figures is some sort of super woke Che Guevara-esque soy-infused victory over, I don't know, evil people they disagree with. This is the actions of as people as I've met in my life that choose physical actions as opposed to words because their level of intellect is so exceedingly low that they must act like cave people. But then you have certified mental health patients or blue check marks on Twitter cheering on these useful idiots because gentle people like Kirk and other people that would support this type of behavior don't have the actual stones to get out there and do anything on their own. So they glorify it on Twitter to get other people to do their bidding, hence useful idiots, although they themselves, in my opinion, are very stupid people. There's nothing more obvious than resorting to physical actions. There's no more obvious action that someone can do, that they are dumb or that they are incapable of having conversations or debate, than resort to this type of action. All right? So Kirk saying, quote, "You should debate fascists. An idiot, a big bonehead." Then we have Chris Scullion coming in, who is a Scottish Games journalist for 12 years, saying, "Thanks for the kind words, mate. And what? Throwing milkshakes at them is the best way to defeat them? Let's hope they never discover the invention of dry cleaning. Then we'll all be screwed." Then again, we see superhero in his own mind, Kirk LARPing as a revolutionary here, saying, "It's not just you. Throwing a milkshake at them makes them go off and change. It stops them from spouting their poisonous rhetoric. Debating them does the opposite. Even your mate Mario knew not to debate Bowser." You, in my opinion, are probably one of the lowest IQ individuals I've run across in the video games industry. Somebody who thinks and believes what I just read to you is a moron. All right? There are many things that these reactionaries, these low IQ folks never understand. And that is the Streisand effect, for one. You know, many people would have no idea who Nigel Farage is, or who Carl Benjamin is, or who Tommy Robinson is, or any of these people, if it weren't for morons throwing milkshakes on them. All right? So the idea that you're doing anything to silence their speech proves just how dumb you are. All right? All you're doing is giving them a super huge megaphone. You're also showing yourself to be an exceedingly big baby and coward, because most of these people are hosting open debates. I know of several of them will host an open debate, but instead of going to do that, you would rather throw things at them like bricks, which happened this past weekend. This does not silence anybody. This amplifies their message. If you think it is so bad, then go down there and debate them. Or how about this? Get involved yourself. You clearly want to be into politics. You don't care about video games. You're just using that platform. Chris Scullion goes on, "I get that milkshakes shut him up for a minute, but while he's off changing the video of him being hit with a milkshake, is spread online, and he gets more sympathy from other people while his following grows larger. We have to paint him as evil, not tragic. Anyone who feels sympathy for a fascist covered in milkshake is already too far gone." Okay. First of all, most of these people have no idea what true fascism even is. Most of these people have never really worked a real job in their life, and most of these people have never been oppressed ever in their life. Okay? They are LARPers. They are weak. They are not oppressed. They are living in the best time on the planet. If you live in Western culture, you're living in arguably the best time ever, specifically for video gamers, but also for humankind. Okay, notice I said humankind there? Getting pretty woke. All right? So I don't want to hear about how you're oppressed and you're tweeting about it. That's not oppression. But, you know, I'm glad you work at VG 24/7. It's a great place for people to read morons' moronic opinions. That's just, of course, in this moron's opinion. Enjoy the backlash, Kirk McKeon. I'm sure you'll feel justified. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon. What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and I hope this take isn't... I don't feel like it's that spicy, but it seems like you have to kind of chop through the marketing wonk and the virtue signaling to kind of understand where I'm coming from. Today, Phil Spencer, leader of Xbox, put out a blog post, which we're going to address in a second. But I believe, and I'm curious if you agree or disagree here, I believe that fundamentally there is a difference between somebody who plays video games and somebody who is a gamer. Now, I don't want to argue semantics specifically, but I feel like words have meanings, and gamer has been around a lot longer than its current use, which is like this blanket for anyone who's played video games. Being a gamer started way earlier, okay? Nintendo, PlayStation or Super Nintendo, N64. This is a word used to describe the dedicated, the hardcore. I don't believe that it has any particular gender to it. So Phil Spencer and I agree on that. I think a man, a boy, and a girl, or anything in between can be a gamer. All right? Anyone who disagrees with that is just, in my opinion, just wrong. I think the generally accepted definition of gamer is somebody who has a dedication to gaming, someone who is in it for the love of it, and not someone here to like leech on it or write blog posts and push politics. Or it's also just not somebody who casually plays video games. There's absolutely nothing wrong with playing casual video games. Let me give you a perfect example. My wife plays Candy Crush almost every single night before bed. She would tell you she's not a gamer. She just plays video games. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no negative connotation to that. But the problem is how the word bends, shapes, and is used to both disparage and prop up, however people see fit, groups of people. You see this article from Game Informer already. Xbox head Phil Spencer addresses toxicity in gaming and outlines a plan to combat it. All right, and so you already can imagine the amount of woke articles that are going to come out, culminating ultimately into how this is a white male problem, because we know that that's what's going to happen. But rather than focusing on the hot takes, I want to start with the actual take of Phil Spencer, which was published today. An article titled "Video Games: A Unifying Force for the World." Now, I think this is a little bit, idealistic, but fine. I'm not gonna, it's a headline, okay? Starts the article talking about him and his father, how they bonded over their first computer and even writing code. The first computer was a Sinclair ZX81. That's even before my time. I don't think I had my first computer until they were out to, I think, a 386, which was probably in the early 90s. And he starts off with a statement. First, gaming is for everybody. No one owns gaming. Instead, whether you're new to a gaming or a diehard esports fan, you are welcome to play and welcome to all the fun. I agree. I think this is a very wholesome take. Phil, good take. I agree with you. Skill building that comes with gaming. In this way, when everyone can play, the entire world wins. I agree. Everyone should be able to play games, and I'm glad that there's, in 2019, we have companies that are helping serve. Microsoft does do some good things for people that are disabled, people who are blind. All these people are now experiencing video games in ways that they just never could before. I think that's an amazing thing. They go on to say, if you imagine gamers as, here we go, predominantly men and specifically teen boys, think again. We are 2.6 billion person strong community of parents playing with our kids, adventurers exploring worlds together, teachers making math wondrous, grandmothers learning about their grandchildren through play. Okay, most gamers today are adults. Nearly half are all women. I don't believe you. Now, I know it's a nitpick, okay? But it's important to me because words have meaning. Most people that play video games are adults, nearly half of women. That is a statement that, first of all, I would like to see backed up with some statistics, but one that I think I would accept on face value. But also you look at how people self-identify. We're talking about a huge chunk of people that play Candy Crush and all these other type of mobile games. If you asked them on the street if they thought they were a gamer, they would tell you they're not. Now, I don't know if it's necessarily important. I don't care if somebody thinks I'm a gamer or not. I take some weird issue with that. none of which has anything to do with somebody's gender or, where they're from in the world. It's about the commitment. It's about the love of the game. But then things take a turn. Second, gaming must promote and protect the safety of all. No, it shouldn't. I disagree with this entirely. Gaming should be entertaining, and that's where its requirement ends. Gaming must be a safe environment. Creating a community is shared work, and protecting community is essential work. So we all carry part of the payload of this community. Again, community is a tough word for me to get behind. I know it can be used in good ways, but it can also be used in an exclusionary factor. Let me give you an example. Oh, this dude, he's not a part of our, Jeremy, he's not a part of the real Magic the Gathering community. We're a community, but he's not a part of it, right? Gaming's the same way. Oh, if you say spicy things online, you're not a part of our community. Well, like it or not, they generally are. Now, here's where things get a little annoying. The widespread embrace of gaming and its global communities has turned video games into the world's leading cultural industry, bigger than movies or music. But it also comes at a time when digital life includes a growing stew of hate speech, bigotry, and misogyny. What is even hate speech? Offensive words? Sorry. I'm not sorry I offended you. This is right where you draw the line. When you're going to be worried about this crap, this is right where I draw the line. Phil Spencer, you're not a gamer. You may be the CEO of Xbox, but gamers don't worry about this. Most video games, for example, I got 60 hours into Dragon Quest XI over the last 4 weeks. I've never talked to a single other person. Have I not been gaming? At what point would I have run into bigotry? No different than from rock and roll, my fellow youths. Books and TV before them, video games are often dismissed or maligned as frivolous. They are frivolous. Fraught with violence or filled with exclusively with hate-mongering. By who? What? But gaming is uniquely designed for equality. We don't just walk in someone else's shoes. We stand on equal footing, regardless of age, education, socioeconomics, race, a bunch of other buzzwords. BuzzFeed. Ironic. Gaming doesn't just bring the stereotype defying gamers together. It unites us under our universal language of fun and answers our human need to play. Research has shown an effective way to battle polarization and prejudice is through relationships with people outside of our own groups, known as intergroup contact theory. This is where gaming excels, forging unexpected friendships with people we might never meet in real life. Okay, yes, but this ignores the bad. In order to meet a few good people, you're going to meet some bad people. That's how real world is. If you think everybody you meet on the block is going to be all nice and kind and want to talk to you, I don't know what world you're from. To expect that out of the gaming community is also absurd. When people call video games a waste of time, I point them to well-documented health and social benefits of gaming. Beyond pure exhilaration, gaming helps children with autism. Oh my! Let's pump the brakes on you saving the world, Phil. Let's pump the brakes on that. Yes, I think escapism is extremely important for humans and probably in the animal kingdom too. Obviously, animals play. But there are many ways to enjoy relaxing and relaxation without having an Xbox. Many people camp. People go fishing, people go to theme parks, people spend time with their family, people go to carnivals, people go to air shows. None of these involve video games, okay? So let's pump the brakes on the savior complex, Phil. I continue. It teaches kids computational skills and empathy. Gaming is just the gateway to these 21st century skills. People have been feeling empathy a lot longer than video games have been around. And just consider, teen girls who play video games are 3 times more likely to pursue STEM degree. Among teenagers who play games online with others daily, 74% have made friends online, and 37% have made more than 5 friends online. Okay. Whoa. Causation does not imply correlation. Am I saying that right? I'm not saying that right. You get what I mean. The fact that teen girls who play video games are 3 times more likely to pursue STEM has nothing to do with video games. It has everything to do with what they find personally stimulating. That'd be like saying 80% of girls that go to science camp are more likely to pursue STEM. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the way that their mind. I don't think that video games, there's no saying that video games is causing it, but I feel like that's what Phil's implying here. So he goes on. We commit to be vigilant, proactive, and swift. We commit to empowering you, safeguarding your gaming experience. What if I don't want it to be safe? This is the problem I have with the monopoly that exists, and this is why I'm actually very happy that Google Stadia is going to be at least a possible contender. I don't want Xbox or PlayStation protecting me. I want them providing me the highest quality graphics and the best video game experience possible. I don't care if I run into some jerk online. I don't blame Xbox or PlayStation for that. I blame the other person for that. I don't want you to protect me. While I'm at it, why don't you get rid of always online DRM? Why don't you let the people who buy the games own the games? And of course, this will get spun into, again, addressing toxicity. Spencer delves into content moderation for children and teens, citing workshops and online resources Microsoft has offered to parents looking to protect their kids from adult content and online harassment. How about personal responsibility? How about parents not expecting their video games to be their babysitter, and they just, why don't you spend time with your kids teaching them how to deal with this stuff? Xbox's supposed willingness to share its safety resources with other tech companies is a good move and continues the trend of Xbox listening to its fans. Toxic culture in games isn't going away anytime soon, but if Spencer promises are followed through, there might be more resources for people to fight it. To say that toxicity or mean people only exist in video games is to ignore everyday life. Xbox isn't saving the world. They're providing a tool for escapism. No different than Nintendo Switch, no different than PlayStation, no different than a bicycle, no different than a fishing rod, no different than a rifle, no different than a bowling ball. All right? You're not saving the world, Phil. And there's a big chunk of people out there that agree with me that we just want you to make the best possible video games. We're not interested in you being our new dads.
Today's video is brought to you by Aaron Clary's Bachelor Pad Economics. From dating to what to major in to purchasing a home to starting a business to children and even wife training. Bachelor Pad Economics is the wisdom you wish the father you never had gave you. This video is also brought to you by Comics Elite. For the elite and exclusive variant covers, taking part in live Facebook auctions, poll lists, and signature opportunities, check out comicselite.com. And if you'd like to advertise on this channel and reach millions of eyes a month, email us at worldclassbs@mail.com. Now on to the video.
The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
Initially, I wanted to talk about the big pushback being seen by fans on account of them not enjoying Game of Thrones' final season, and how the media actively attacks the only thing keeping the entertainment industry alive, the fans. It's ridiculous how we're treated with such disdain, but then something more ridiculous came to my attention, and it's in regard to that fail-in-the-making CW's Batwoman. Sometimes there are things in life that make you say wow, as in, wow, what a great movie. Wow, what a great song. Wow, what a great day. But in the case of Batwoman, it's more like, wow, how did they screw that up? My initial reaction to the trailer can be summed up in 3 letters. WTF. After the initial shock of witnessing new levels of wokeness, or modern identity politics for the layperson, I left the trailer, reassured that my disinterest in all DC television properties was justified, and that's all she wrote. If this was a normal world, but it's not. This is 2019, and most everyone writing for garbage tier websites are crazy, and Batwoman is just the newest battle to be fought in our culture war. CBR, as in crappy broken rhetoric, comic book resources, has the story. Batwoman trailer suffers massive comment bombing on YouTube. The first trailer for Batwoman premiered earlier this week, showing a look at the upcoming CW series. However, the trailer seems to be experiencing comment bombing on YouTube. As of this writing, the video has received over 3.1 million views, but it has over 196,000 dislikes. That's compared to 53,000 likes. Sorting by top comments yields you the following results. And now I'll spare you reading the comments, but you can go to the video and check them out yourself. In addition to these comments, there are many decrying the show's feminist agenda. Comments here are in many ways reminiscent of campaigns against such female-led movies as Captain Marvel and the Ghostbusters reboot. When the show picks up, Gotham City is in despair. In Batman's absence, the city has become overrun by crime. Even as her father Jacob makes a desperate attempt to keep her safe, Kate throws herself into danger when her ex-girlfriend is kidnapped by Alice and the Wonderland Gang. With a little help from Luke Fox, who readjusts Bruce Wayne's Batman suit to fit her, Kate swings into action to save her ex-flame, and maybe Gotham in the process. The Kate Kane iteration of Batwoman first appeared in 2011's Batwoman #1. The character is an out lesbian and was expelled from West Point due to the don't ask, don't tell policy of the United States military that barred openly LGBTQ people from serving. Its repeal was officially enacted in 2011. Written by Caroline Dries, developed by Berlanti Productions and Warner Brothers Television, the series will air Sundays at 8 p.m. this fall, though no premiere date has yet been announced. Let's just hope for the sake of sanity, they never give the show a release date. This article is problematic. Ugh. Sorry. This article is dumb. Starting with that title, there is no comment bombing anywhere to be found. There are a ton of jokes at the show's expense. Fans are ripping apart the cringe-inducing dialogue. They're destroying the show based on its lack of logic. They're picking apart the stupidity of the entire thing, but I don't see comment bombing, or even good old-fashioned trolling. All I see, using the exact same parameters as set forth by this writer, are dissatisfied Bat fans and frustrated geeks seeing the same exact level of identity politics thrust into properties that didn't need it. It's convenient that the writer brought up Ghostbusters 2016. By all accounts, that was the genesis of this crap we're seeing today. Before Ghostbusters, I don't recall such a vicious pushback from idiots behind the camera, like Paul Feig. After that film, Hollywood became emboldened. That's why we had The Last Jedi makers attack us. They saw it was okay with Ghostbusters, so they tried it. Thankfully, Ghostbusters failed. It wasn't a hit, and as of this recording, it, Ghostbusters 2016, pronouns pal, has been found in its new home, the $5 bin at Walmart. Though I'd argue the trash is more appropriate. What entertainment like Ghostbusters, The Last Jedi, and Batwoman fail to realize is that they're not any good, and making a big old stink about identity politics only does two things: annoys the fans and exposes how hollow of a story you have. It's like the show creators say, we don't have a story, but, women, and fucking like it. Or you're a, insert tired and untrue claim. Even if you hate the agenda behind these things, you always have the excuse that they're never that good or worth your time. It's guaranteed to suck. One of the reasons shows like these are guaranteed to suck is the fact that these writers try too hard. They're ideologues. They are so focused on telling you how to think that they forget to tell, a good story. Trying too hard is dangerous. And according to Dr. Liza Varvalgi, PhD in psychology, Harvard-trained psychotherapist, stress management, professional parenting and relationship expert, mediator, positive thinker, solution-oriented, and a doctor, by the way, there are 7 reasons why trying too hard will backfire. Batwoman is trying too hard to be liked by a certain sect of society, and it's only going to hurt the show and the cause in the long run. Let's take a look. 7 reasons why trying too hard to be liked will backfire. And now I'm just going to read some of these points to you. So point number 1, it makes you look phony. People look for authenticity. They want original people around them, real flesh and bone, with strengths and weaknesses, people that they can relate to. If you try too hard and give the impression of perfection, you probably turn others off, and they still don't like you, despite your efforts. Why not be your original, authentic self with them? So it's painfully obvious that fans can see right through the facade of Batwoman's try-hard trailer. That's where the thumbs down are coming from, not from sexism. The show's attempt to show this ideal vision of perfection is a turnoff. The creators are doing their best to make Batman look ineffectual and elevate Batwoman, but she requires everything Batman worked for or paid for. It's funny. Watching the trailer made me realize a trope that these hacks employ when they want to make something based off a tried-and-true property, but they want to twist it into something bad. They make the male heroes run away. They did it with Han Solo and Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, and they did it here with Batman. At this point, it's as banal as a bank robbery in a comic book. Common, overused, shows a lack of originality. The next point I want to discuss. It can turn you into a boaster, or even worse, a narcissist. Trying too hard to impress others, you end up being self-centered, revolving around yourself, your achievements, deeds, performances, goals, and effort. And that's simply tiresome. People want to be listened to. They don't want to be in a conversation where the other person is a braggart, or can't even ask them a simple question about themselves, and listen to the answer too. Again, painfully obvious that the writers here don't know how to create a confident character. Batwoman's point about how great she is a direct ripoff of Iron Man's billionaire clip from the Avengers. The only difference is that Tony Stark can back it up. He built the first Iron Man suit in a cave because of his genius, saved the world on multiple occasions, and in the end, well, just watch Endgame. But unlike Iron Man, Batwoman kind of forced a dude into readjusting Batman's suit and claims it as her own achievement. You know, the audience likes to go on the journey with the hero. We want to watch them grow and show why their cockiness is justified. It's just like Captain Marvel all over again. We heard nothing but Brie Larson's claims of being the strongest and blah blah blah. But it's the case of show, not tell in the superhero genre, and telling us without showing only makes us dislike the character. The final point I want to glean from Dr. Volvolgi's article is, it takes away your uniqueness. If you think ahead of time, what are the characteristics or behaviors you must exhibit to be liked socially or professionally? That means that you are making some serious assumptions, which they may or may not be true. The fact that thinking this way prevents you from being the unique you, the person with character, traits, and quirks that makes the distinctive, unique you. You become more uniform and less original, and that's not necessarily a good thing. This is obvious. The character can't exist without Batman or the world created for that character. It's almost like Batwoman was created to hold on to a copyright. Well, that's what a comic pro once told me, but it's a secret. Shh. It's really tiring to see these hacks try and guilt an audience into watching something. You can't get anyone to like your show on the merit of your creativity, so you try to force them into watching by the bend of your political affiliation. I feel similar to a lot of fans. The writing was bad. Cringy is the best way to describe it. The premise, lazy, and the agenda, very direct. Speaking of direct, let me bring something to your attention directly. If you found this video and you rage voted based on the title, whatever that may be, you'll notice that I never once had to make fun of Ruby Rose or belittle lesbians or attack anyone based on their gender or sexual orientation to get my point across. It's said that our friends in the access media can't come to terms with the fact that sometimes people just don't like a TV show or movie for what it is. They think that by promoting a certain viewpoint, it insulates them from criticism. Well, if we're all equal, and I'd say we are, then these shows should be held to the same standard. Sadly, they're not very good. They live and die by their merit, or in the case of the Batwoman trailer, lack thereof. Articles like these are the problem with entertainment journalism these days. They use powerful words to scare fans into submission. No one wants to be a sexist, so I better just be quiet so I'm not accused of being one. No, if you hated this trailer, you're not a piece of shit. You're sane. Bad entertainment sets a dangerous precedent because these creators won't allow any criticism. They only want positive reacts. Thankfully, that's not how the world works. So you're probably wondering why the Twilight guy is possibly in the title card. Well, just when you thought the world of Batman couldn't get any dumber, they, DC and Warner Brothers, go out and cast the Twilight guy as Batman, the same day as this trailer drops. Now you're probably expecting me to rage rant for the next few minutes about masculinity and Batman being so important, etc. And you're right, I'm not happy. I'm usually one to take the wait-and-see approach, but until I'm proven wrong, Robert Pattinson will be referred to as Batglam. I've been hearing the argument, well, look at Heath Ledger. People didn't want him cast, and he's the best ever. While I disagree, Nicholson for life, your logic is sound. I'll see your Ledger and raise you a Jared Leto, an Oscar-winning actor who is getting online praise left and right after the initial casting. But then we got Suicide Squad and everyone shut up. But hey, he sent out used condoms and dead rats. He really got into the role. I'll also raise you an Andrew Garfield. An online crowd was so dissatisfied with Tobey Maguire and Spider-Man 3 that they were ready to eat up anything and made up countless excuses for Andrew Garfield. Then we saw the movies, and they were rebooted in record time. By the way, Garfield was fired before the Marvel-Sony arrangement, so yeah. Very similar parallel to Batfleck. My official standing on the situation is meh. This isn't a good choice, and Twilight sucks. But hey, prove me wrong. Batman is my favorite DC character and number 2 overall, only second to Spider-Man. A good Batman film only does one thing, make me happy. So if I'm wrong, good. I loved Keaton, enjoyed Kilmer, lived through Clooney, believed in Bale, and Batfleck. Well, I liked him. Too bad he's getting cut short. Either way, we'll see real soon. But Hollywood, if you're listening, and we know you are, don't screw this up. Get us a great costume, a great script, and fill the world with faithful renditions of characters. Don't give us a Batwoman where the only thing we remember from the trailer is the bad taste left in our mouths. So that's it for today. What did you guys think about the situation with Batwoman? Obviously, the trailer was cringy and a lot of people dislike it. I mean, you can never just have something be disliked in this political climate. And that's a problem. Some things aren't good. Not everything can be good. Not everything should be praised and treated as if it's good. The Batwoman trailer, it's not good. Now, admittedly, I'm not a Batwoman fan. I'm a Batgirl fan. Barbara Gordon's a lot cooler of a character. But we've seen her in the cartoons. We've seen her in the movies. So I guess they're trying to do something different. Or maybe, you just can't tell a good Batgirl story without Batman somewhere in there. And maybe Robin. I mean, a Batman family TV show would be very interesting. But this is the CW, and we don't do anything interesting. And yes, I know people like Flash, and people like the Green Arrow. I almost said the Green Hornet. Nobody liked that movie. And I've tried to watch them. I've never seen Legends of Tomorrow. But I've tried to watch the DC shows on the CW, and they're just not for me. Why? Is it because I dislike the characters? No, because the shows are just kind of shitty. At least in my opinion. And while I'm not complaining that the show exists, I am complaining about the fact that the media is trying to attack the fans again. It's funny, they say history repeats itself. Well, damn it, it's repeating itself now. They want to bring up Ghostbusters, that's where it all started. Star Wars, Captain Marvel, now Batwoman. The only difference is, Batwoman is a small television production that will probably only last a season, if that. Not all these shows are huge successes. And that just goes to show me that society, the TV viewing audience, they sometimes know what's going on. Now, in regards to the Batman thing, I'm taking the wait-and-see approach, I guess. Like I said, I don't like him in theory as Batman. I've seen him in a few other things, but I'm not a Robert Pattinson fan. And the thing I think I dislike more than Robert Pattinson playing Batman is the fans always using the Heath Ledger approach. That doesn't always work. I gave you 2 examples in the video. I'm sure there are other examples of actors who were cast in roles, people weren't satisfied, and, like Taylor Kitsch. I remember people thinking, oh, he's not going to be a good Gambit, and there's never been another Gambit, and that guy's barely been in anything else. Not everybody works. Not everyone's Heath Ledger. He did a great job. Glad he got his Oscar, but that's a one-time thing. You can't attribute that to everybody that's going to play a superhero with controversial casting. So that's where we are. Hopefully, you get a decent Batman flick, and we can get a good Superman flick, and we can maybe get a good crossover movie. Maybe a World's Finest. I'm really open to the idea of more Batman and Superman teaming up on film, but it's got to be good. We live in a post-Avengers Endgame world where we've seen Rocket Raccoon and Howard the Duck and some of the craziest elements of the Marvel Universe be elevated and adapted on screen and basically become accepted by society. Yet DC can't get, I don't know, the world's most famous detective done right. In about, a decade? Almost a decade. 2012 is when they last got it right. But that's it for today, folks. If you liked this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and share World Class Bullshitters all over social media. If you're a super fan of this channel and you want to get involved with more, join our Patreon page. $1 helps, but $5 a month, which is only 17 cents a day, gives you access to all kinds of exclusive digital content, bonus podcasts, and gets you involved with the show all the time. But if you can't afford that, well, that's fine. Just get involved with the community, because the Fandom Menace is the fastest growing online fan community, and you know what? I couldn't be happier about that. So if you're looking for somewhere to discuss movies, entertainment, make some friends, get involved with some group of people that are very positive and know their shit, well, then join the Fandom Menace. It's a lot of fun. Maybe one day we'll have cookies. But until that day comes, folks, go out, check out the trailer, cringe for yourself. Most importantly, though, be excellent to each other.
There is a mobile game. It is not the most prominent mobile game in the world. It is probably one of the least important mobile games in the world, and I don't mean that to be disrespectful to the company who produces it. In this game, you play an assassin. And your goal is to take out high-profile or troublesome individuals, whatever organization you're working for. Journalists don't seem to care that video games exist across a wide range of spectrum, wide genre. They don't seem to care that there are quite literally games where you can kill a politician or something like that. They're particularly upset right now because in the game, there is one mission where you kill a journalist. That makes a lot of sense from the standpoint of being an assassin. Apparently, the story is, it's a single mission. A guy is going to pick up a briefcase of confidential information from a police informant, someone who's leaking information, and you've been hired to take him out because the information could be damaging to your contractor or whatever. Well, journalists are outraged, completely furious. Here's a story from Huffington Post. Game asked players to kill a journalist to make him famous in a different way. Why is this news? It's absolutely not news until you realize that journalists are being... Well, I want to say this. I think there's a lot of really great journalists, but I think the profession attracts sociopaths who want power and are emotionally stunted. You end up with Huffington Post writing a story about some random mobile game where one of the missions is violent towards a journalist. I don't see them writing a story about any other character in the game. Why? Because they take it personally. Because journalists believe they are a special protected class. Now, I'll stress again. There are a lot of really great journalists. In fact, I'm working with some of them, and I'm trying to work with more. But this is a job that attracts those who want power, who are bullies. Because there's another story we're going to get into in a bit. The accusation that Vice News journalists broke into the home of I believe the owner of Infinite Chan, or 8chan. Now, before we jump into the first story, check out timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a monthly donation option. There is a cryptocurrency wallet or a physical address for sending stuff. And you can just share this video or click the like button and comment. At the very least, click the like comment because that tells YouTube it's a great video, apparently. So, or not, or you can hate me because I don't think I'm a special protected class. I think I'm a dude on the internet. But here's the story. A game that was featured on Apple devices and gaming platform Steam included a mission that asked players to gun down a journalist. And, seriously, okay. I play Civilization 6 all the time. And quite literally, you have military units. I blow up cities. I take out religious folk. It's a game. It's a video game. These, journalists aren't the only target in video games. So why are they so concerned about it? Well, because they think they're special. The revelation was shared Sunday by New York Times journalist Jamal Jordan, who said in a tweet that his nephew showed him the game Sniper 3D Assassin. The game is free to play and can also be accessed through Amazon, Google, and Microsoft app stores. My nephew is 10, and we had a very long talk after. The level was removed by developers from TFG Co. after HuffPost reached out and published its initial story. Let me say this in no uncertain terms. These people, the technique they use is disgusting and coercive. Journalists know that by reaching out for comment, they're going to put PR pressure on a company and force them to bend the knee. In this instance, we can see another perfect example of how journalists are duplicitous egotists with sociopathic tendencies. I don't see these people reaching out to the game developer about any of the other missions in the game. They just want the one that slights them removed, and they will wield the power of their audience to get it. How psychotic is that? This is what they do to, YouTubers, people like Carl Benjamin. There was one instance where I'm not sure if you're familiar with Raheem Kassam. I believe he's a conservative, one of the co-founders of Human Events, tweeted how BuzzFeed took 30 real pro-Brexit accounts. Okay, these are real people, and asked Twitter why they weren't being banned. Twitter banned 7 of them. Why? Because, listen, there are a lot of great people who work in journalism who want to do the right thing and help you better understand the world. Unfortunately, there is a lot of power in journalism. Let me bring you to the great quote by George Orwell. Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. To put it simply, journalists control the present, not completely, but as the gatekeepers of information, or at least that's how they see themselves, they have that power. They wield that power. And that's why YouTubers are so dangerous. This is a really good example of something that matters to no one. Literally to no one. Who cares about some silly little game where you have one mission where you shoot a guy in the head? You ever played GTA? What do you think that game is? All of these games that come out, even, Fallout, Skyrim, yes, they're violent games. You have weapons, you do things. That's what the game is. They're fighting games. Mortal Kombat. Jeez, you ever play Mortal Kombat? Woof. That stuff's brutal. Very gory, if those are not familiar. So why? Why do the journalists write about this one simple game? Because it's a threat. Don't you write about us negatively, or we will hurt you. And that's what they're doing here. Make no mistake. This story about this stupid game makes literally no sense to publish. I will ask you this. For those that are watching on YouTube, seriously comment. Is there a reason to write a story about this? This is insane. They go on to add at the end, death threats against journalists have grown steadily in recent years. Excuse me. And I'm not surprised, though, when they do things like this. Now, certainly, death threats are incredibly wrong. Some of the worst, it's the precursor to actually harming someone. Should never be tolerated. And I agree. They've been growing, and we shouldn't tolerate this. But when you repeatedly see journalists wielding their sociopathic power, using a platform to threaten people who don't agree with them, what do you think is going to happen? When BuzzFeed publishes opinion as fact all day and night, what do you think is going to happen? This is evil. It is pure evil. It is selfishness. It is egotism. And this is what, I experience when I work for these companies. Am I surprised to see that Huffington Post takes personal action against them when they feel slighted? No. I'm also not surprised to see that apparently, now this is an allegation. This is Nick Monroe tweeted this. Attack on Infinite Chan owner. Vice reporters are showing up at the owner's house uninvited, breaking and entering. Police are now involved. Apparently, the man, I believe his name is Jim Watkins, put out a video saying that they stealthily entered his home and greeted them at his bedroom door. And he said they're lucky to be alive because he has a baseball bat. But his kids were there. So apparently he just made them leave. Now, this is an allegation. I don't know if this is true or not, but I got to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, I know many people at Vice News, because for many of you that aren't familiar, I was the founding member of Vice News. There was no official Vice News division before me. I was the first person involved. So I know many of the people there. I've reached out. They've gone dark. They haven't responded, which is weird. These are some of the people, I message. They respond. No problem. All of a sudden now, everything's gone quiet. If you were to ask me, based on what I know about Vice and who I know there and the reaction that people have just shut up, I kind of think they did it. I think they broke into this guy's house and are now in trouble. Elle Reeve, who I've met on I think a couple occasions, I think she's fine. She's good at her job. I have no issues with her. But she and Lanny Levine have both locked their accounts. And again, I've reached out to a few people, including Elle. No response. Just dead silence. So it's hard to know exactly. There was a post on Reddit. So apparently this is actually getting some traction. People are wanting to know what happened. But I guess the only footage we have is them in front of his house on some kind of surveillance footage. But it looks like, here's what I can say. In this first photo, we can see what looks like Elle and I believe that's Lanny. I'm not sure who that is. But then it shows someone else walking towards the house. It looks like they entered the home. Right? So 8chan is saying they're putting it out there because they want to make sure that HBO knows they don't have permission to use the footage. I would be surprised if they cared. Apparently this happened in the Philippines, right? So in this tweet, this is one of the people who originally shared the anger over the journalism story. Responding with this quote from Paul Huntsman, "To undermine the press is to me no different than undermining our houses of worship. It infuriates me that we don't have the same amount of outrage when freedom of the press is under attack." Well, I certainly think freedom of the press is paramount. We need a strong journalistic industry to protect us, to make sure that we are informed. But to act like, my God, this is in response to some silly video game. And they're acting like it's the end of the world. They're acting like it's a personal attack on the press. It's crazy. And then what they do is they contact the company and say, "Why did you do this?" And the company bows to the pressure. Well, you know what? Stop doing it. Stop bowing to the pressure and tell these people off. I was going to swear. I'm not going to swear. I can't because of the podcast. Well, I just don't like swearing anyway. But tell them off. Tell them no. Tell them I don't care. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this silly, ridiculous story inspires a game. When I first heard this, I thought it was someone making a game where it was a bunch of journalists, right? Because I was hearing that journalists were outraged over this game, and I thought it was going to be something specifically targeting journalists. And then it turns out it's just a general game with a general theme. What really blows my mind with these journalists, I'll do air quotes, is how they're angry at YouTube, they're angry at edgy jokes, Count Dankula, but they don't care about television. They're angry at this video game, but they don't care about every movie ever which has a depiction of journalists getting assassinated. They don't. They just don't care. So why? Well, here's my opinion. 1, this career, this job attracts sociopaths. It's a path to power. He who controls the present controls the past, controls the future. So you can put out whatever you want and manipulate people's perspective based on subjective information and misleading information or things like this. We made a video game years ago, and it just so happens that one of the missions follows a typical trope of a journalist who is troublesome for a powerful corporation, and the assassins take him out. It's a trope. It's in movies. It's in tons of movies. Well, the sociopaths over at Huffington Post won't stand for it. So they got it taken down. Congratulations. And that's what they do. They get video games shut down, they get people banned, and they do it in one direction. They want to control the present, but it's more just about being bullies. They're bullies, and look, I'm going to say this. The bullies aren't going to stop. When you bend the knee and you prove them right, you think they're going to stop doing it? No, they're going to keep doing it. And that's why they don't like people like me. That's why they don't like people like Carl Benjamin. That's why they don't like Dankula. Carl refuses to apologize. So what do these journalists do? They lie. It's all lies all day. It's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. CNN is complete trash. Lies. Just lie after lie after lie. And they'll sit there and go, oh, I can't believe the anti-media rhetoric. Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Well, when you have Jim Acosta openly lying, and they play this ridiculous game of semantics to try and justify how it's not really a lie, but they're misinforming you. They're trying to trick you for personal gain, for personal power. They target alternative voices. They complain all day and night about Alex Jones. But I don't see them going after Ancient Aliens, and I know it's funny because I brought it up several times, but it's true. You want to complain about Alex Jones talking about interdimensional aliens and cell towers and mutant animal hybrids, but you don't care that for years, and even to this day, there is a show on TV that willfully lies about history and what we know about the past for entertainment? I think Ancient Aliens is hilarious. By all means, keep it on the TV. It's total BS. They willfully they purposefully bring on people who don't know what they're talking about to make it sound entertaining. Nobody cares. These people are sociopathic, evil scumbags. Let me ask, CNN, as they complain all day and night about fake news, when they're going to go after satire and Ancient Aliens and other shows like Ghost Hunters and other shows that willfully misrepresent facts for entertainment. Because then they would have to go after themselves. I'll leave it there. This is a subject that gets me really angry, I'm sure there's probably a bunch of other stories that would have been much more, important. But when I saw this story from Huffington Post, I was just like, the nerve of these people to go after this small game developer over a game from 2016 because of one level truly shows the depravity of these individuals, how they want power. How dare you? How dare you make a video game about journalists getting hurt? And that's what they do. That's what they do. And, side note, breaking into people's homes, allegedly. The reason I'm much lighter on this Achan story is because we don't really know what happened yet. It's an allegation, but I definitely wanted to highlight it. There wasn't really enough here for me to go into a longer, in-depth story on what's going on with Achan, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned it. So I'll leave it there. Thanks for hanging out. Stick around. More segments to come. For those on YouTube, it'll be up at 1 p.m. For those that are listening on the podcast, give me a good review if you like these segments, because apparently that really helps. If you review and say, hey, Tim's great. Everyone else, thanks for hanging out, and or for everybody, I will see you. Many of you probably know that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by around 3 million votes in 2016. Because of this, there have been a lot of people calling for a national popular vote coalition. Many states are signing a pact and passing these laws at the state level, saying that once they get enough states that have 270 electoral votes total, they will enact their coalition and then only give their electorates to the winner of the popular vote. Donald Trump won. He's the president. A lot of people don't like that. We had Russiagate for years, and now we have the threat of the national popular vote. The popular vote went to Clinton, but Trump won. That's another problem. It's actually not a problem. The Electoral College is actually extremely important. Today, we're going to go through what the latest news is on this plan, why it's a horrible, horrible idea for Democrats, why they're probably going to do it anyway. But let's talk about the importance of county-based voting and why the Electoral College is very, very important. Before we get into the first story, go to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a monthly donation option. There's a cryptocurrency option, a physical address. But of course, if you just share this video, click the like button or comment below. That tells YouTube the video is good and it helps tremendously. So let's get back to the news from CNN. Maine Senate passes bill giving states electoral votes to national popular vote winner. Maine's lawmakers passed a bill that would give the state's electoral votes to the presidential candidate who won the national popular vote, taking a step toward becoming the 15th state to enact such a law. The Maine Senate voted 19-16 Tuesday to join the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, which would give all committed states electoral votes to the winning popular vote candidate should the group accrue the 270 votes necessary for a majority. One of the problems with the Democrats and many people on the left, and it's true for everybody, but something I've seen repeatedly among left-wing activists and the far left, is that they don't think about what the result will actually be. They think, hey, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. She should be president. Let's enact a policy that says these states will only give their electorates to the popular vote winner. Think about what that means. Maine is, I believe Maine went blue yes, Maine went blue, but gave one electorate in 2016 to Trump. So yes, technically, in 2016, Maine would have given all of their electorate to Donald Trump, not really changing the outcome of the election. Trump still would have won. But think about what it means for these blue states that are enacting this policy. If Maine is more blue than red, the only thing this can do is guarantee your electoral votes can go to Republicans. Would we be surprised to find California voting Republican and giving 55 electorates to a Republican? We would be. California's blue, probably always going to be blue. But under this coalition, I'm not entirely sure, I believe California is, this opens the door for California to give 55 electoral votes to a Republican should they win the popular vote. This plan will not help Democrats. It will only help Republicans. But of course, we need to think several steps ahead. This idea is very simple, but it makes no sense when you actually think about what the results are going to be. You will no longer need two parties. In fact, someone could win the popular vote by, let's say 50 people run and everybody gets, a percentage of the vote, but one person gets 7%, which is 1% more than anyone else. Well, then you have a popular vote president based on a tiny, tiny minority of the population. Now, it's possible the two-party remains the way it is. If it does, this idea being enacted by Democrats at the state level will only ever guarantee blue states go red. Because think about it. Do you think low population red states are going to give more power to blue states? Of course not. There's a very important reason why we have an electoral college, and I'm going to go through that. But let's read through some of these states and some of the reasons for this idea, and then we're going to talk about why the electoral college is so damn important, and it is. California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Rhode Island, Vermont, Washington State, and the District of Columbia have all committed to the pact. The most recent addition, New Mexico, put the total at 189 electoral votes. Now, according to their plan, once they get enough states to total 270, the plan goes into effect. But of course, you've heard my thoughts, it'll only backfire. Former Maine Governor Paul LePage alleged earlier this year that if such a law were to pass, white people will not have anything to say. What would happen if they do what they say they're going to do? White people will not have anything to say, he said. It's only going to be the minorities that would elect. It would be California, Texas, and Florida. Not necessarily, excuse me. Because if the popular vote goes to anyone else, those states would go blue. The Electoral College effectively results in voters casting ballots not for their desired presidential candidates, but for 530 electors who in turn select candidates. The mechanism clinched President Donald Trump the 2016 presidential victory despite Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton winning a popular vote majority by nearly 3 million. And so I believe I have those numbers here we go. Donald Trump had 62.9 million. Hillary had 65.8. Gary Johnson had 4.4. Jill Stein had 1.4. It's actually a lot of votes for Gary and Jill. Not too bad. CNN ends by saying, my view, and this is from Elizabeth Warren, my view is that every vote matters, and the way we can make that happen is that we can have national voting, and that means get rid of the Electoral College and every vote counts, she said. Other candidates have since taken up the same position. This is a terrible idea. It's a horrible, horrible idea. For one, I explained, this will likely result in blue states giving their electorates to Republicans, which makes absolutely no sense. But let's talk about this thing called the blue wall. And this is why the idea is a terrible, terrible idea. The blue wall is a term used by political scientists and pundits to refer to 18 U.S. states and the District of Columbia that the Democratic Party consistently won between 1992 and 2012. But why 2012? Because here we can see on this map, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. These states are part of the blue wall. However, we can then see that Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania flipped red. Why? Well, let me show you a meme to explain it. This is, I don't know who this meme is, but it's like the Hardy Boys or something. He's holding up a book. It said, What Happened by Hillary Rodham Clinton. He looks inside the book and it says, I didn't campaign in Wisconsin. I didn't campaign in Wisconsin, Michigan, and the Midwest. He then goes on to say, goddamn Russians. The point is, I would assume Hillary thought it was such a guarantee they would win these states. She didn't bother going there. And Trump did. And Trump talked about why the free trade agreements were bad. He talked about bringing the economy back, the manufacturing base, and it resonated in these three states, which helped Donald Trump secure his victory. So, will a national popular vote coalition matter? In my opinion, it won't. But let's talk about the importance of the Electoral College. Here we have, this is the National Popular Vote site. And they try and use an argument often used to support the Electoral College. They claim that because of the way the system is set up, people only campaign in states where they think they're going to win. This is actually wrong, and this is a very, very strange argument. I would honestly, if someone were to ask me, I would say this is Republican black propaganda. Republicans trying to convince Democrats to vote against their own interests. Of course, that's not the case. It's conspiratorial. But think about it. The only reason people campaign in these states is because they have a potential to swing these states. As we saw, what I just showed you, the blue wall fell. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania flipped red. Well, maybe Hillary Clinton should have campaigned there. But of course, she didn't. In reality, if we get rid of the Electoral College, people will only campaign in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles because those are huge bases. Of course, they'd go to other cities, but they would ignore smaller jurisdictions. Many people say, why should it be that someone who lives in a rural area, why should Wyoming get 2 senators? They ask. Well, it should. 100%. Absolutely. And I'll explain to you why. I covered the drought. You may have heard me talk about this many times. This is one of the best examples. What you're seeing now on your screen, for those that are watching, if you're listening, we're looking at a YouTube video of mine called California's Drought, a City Without Water. The description reads, the town of Porterville is ground zero for the drought, and it's on the eastern, and on its eastern edge lies East Porterville, a town where local residents have run out of water entirely. Because there's not enough people there. What do you think happens when there is a drought? What do you think happens when resources are finite? Does it necessarily make sense to vote based on resource? Not entirely, but we do need to protect the concept. People in this town are low income, mostly migrants. They had no water because the farmers were drilling for groundwater. The groundwater was then being sucked up, lowering the water table, resulting in residential water wells going dry. This was a small town where across the street was a golf course with sprinklers on. This is what happens when you are in the minority and you are voting based on simple popular vote. You end up with people being stripped of their access to drinking water. But it gets even more complicated than this. In Tulare County, where these people live, the farmers, as they explained to us, this may not be completely accurate, but this is what we when we interviewed them, and this is what we looked up. We talked to some experts. They said California votes, and the big cities voted to take surface water to the big cities. That means the farmers in these areas, minding their own business, cannot have their own water. It rains a little bit, the water runs down, but they're not allowed to touch it because it has to be sent off to the cities who outvoted the rural areas. Think about what that results in. So one of the things that's really interesting is people talk about Hillary Clinton winning the popular vote, why it's all important. But did you know that Trump won 2,662 counties, and Hillary Clinton won only 487 counties. What we're looking at on the screen is from the Associated Press. Trending story that Clinton won just 57 counties is untrue. Now, the reality is Hillary Clinton won 487 nationwide, and Trump won 2,626. When you look at it that way, it's kind of a very different narrative. You can talk about Hillary Clinton winning the popular vote, but all that means is that a ton of people live in Los Angeles and New York. It means nothing for what actually runs this country. Simply because people choose to live in crowded urban areas should not mean that those crowded urban areas get more access to resources than any other jurisdiction. Further, we don't live in a direct democracy. We live in a democratic republic, a constitutional republic, a liberal democracy. All of these things refer to the same thing. We have democratic institutions to elect leaders based on region. States vote because states are part of a union. We are not necessarily just one simple country. We are a United States where each state has its own ability to pass laws and choose how they run their own elections. By all means, to these states, by all means, feel free to, join the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. I believe it's called. What is it? The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. But let's go back and look at this map and just show you there are blue states. They're consistently blue states. Most of the states who have joined it, I believe maybe even all of them, are blue states. That's not going to help you. You are opening up a vulnerability. But more importantly, the Electoral College protects small jurisdictions from the tyranny of the majority. Is it fair that people who live in a small farm town should have their water table drained because Los Angeles wants to have long, hot showers on a golf course? No. In fact, there was one jurisdiction near Carlsbad. They were outraged that they couldn't water their lawns. And these were very, very wealthy people. And this is what you see. The people who live in East Porterville are poor. The people who work in Tulare County are mostly migrant farmers, working farmhands and things like that. But the big cities, where the median income is much higher, where people take long, hot showers, where they film for Hollywood, where Hollywood exists, they vote against the interests of the poor, and there's more of them. So the poor people are forced to go without water. And then what do? Do they leave? Well, they can't afford it. Let me say it one more time. It does not make sense to hand over authority to the wealthy majority in crowded urban areas so that they can take away your drinking water. That makes no sense. How do we protect smaller counties? We have an electoral system. We weigh votes differently because, look, one of the most important aspects of the Electoral College is that California wasn't always the massive powerhouse with a massive population that it is now. It was once an empty, massive Western state. And how did they justify getting as many electoral votes as they did? You can look at Montana or Wyoming. They get only 3 votes each. Is that fair for such big states? You could argue it's not. But at some point, people might actually move to Montana for some reason or another. If there's a population boom, that will shift the power, and Montana will become dominant and have much more electoral votes. The system makes sense. Unfortunately, uneducated and angry people are going to cut off their nose to spite their face. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. She should have won the presidency. Failing to recognize she didn't campaign in blue wall states because she was overconfident and she lost them. I will add one more thing. This is potentially bad news for Trump. You had a lot of people in these blue wall states who also didn't vote because they thought it was a foregone conclusion. They thought that these states were going to go blue no matter what, and Trump won by slim margins. It's going to be tough. But Trump did bring back the economy. The economy is booming. 3% record low unemployment across all demographics. And even Trevor Noah of The Daily Show said recently on Jimmy Kimmel's show that, hey, the economy's booming. Trump did what he said he was going to do. And even Bill Maher said you got to give him credit for the economy. This is going to change perceptions. A lot of people voted for Trump for whatever reason. There's a lot of chaos vote. But now he's going to get a lot of people who said, you know what? The economy is good. I don't want it to stop. And the final point I want to make here is just plain and simple. There are a lot of things that people bring up as an excuse as to why Hillary lost. Oh, the popular vote. Oh, Russiagate, right? It's nonsense. She lost because she was a bad candidate and she didn't campaign where she needed to, but then she blamed the Russians. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Thanks for hanging out. If you want to support my work, once again, you can go to timcast.com/donate. It's direct contributions from all of you is much better than relying on ad revenue like some of these big networks that are fizzling out and crashing. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Maine has signed on. You know, if it's possible this could have an impact, because let's be real. If enough votes sign this deal, and you do get some swing states to sign this deal, it's possible that, you know, Hillary Clinton or you know, some other Democrat, they're just going to start campaigning in these big cities. In my opinion, the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact is extremely dangerous. But you let me know what you think. We'll keep the conversation going. You can follow me on Minds at Timcast. Stay tuned. I'll have more videos on my second channel, youtube.com/TimcastNews, starting at 6 p.m. For those that are listening on the podcast, this will be the last segment. But thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all tomorrow at 10 a.m., youtube.com/TimcastNews. If you're listening on the podcast and you like it, leave a good review. It really helps. And I will see you all next time.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today we are going to be talking about the politics of cancel culture, because there's always drama on the internet. After all, it is the internet, but these past few weeks especially have been insane. If anyone isn't familiar with the term cancel culture, it's basically the idea that when someone, usually a public figure, does or says something wrong, everyone dogpiles on them, condemns them, disavows them, and cancels them, meaning that they're done for, they're finished, they'll never work again, or they'll never be popular again. Not all parts of our society may use the term cancel culture. That's really more of an online millennial/Gen Z type of phrase. But make no mistake, even though we may not all call it cancel culture, almost everyone in our society right now does participate in it. Allow me to explain. Recently, in the online, specifically YouTube beauty community, there's been a lot of drama. And I mean more drama than usual, because in general, the beauty community is by nature kind of inclined toward drama. This controversy, which is ongoing, involves three of the biggest names in the online beauty world: Tati Westbrook, James Charles, and of course Jeffree Star. And if you didn't know who those people were before last week, odds are you sure as heck do now. Now, I don't want to go too in-depth into this whole thing because it's already been the subject of many videos online, and besides, it's really not what the message of this video is about anyway. But essentially, James, Tati, and Jeffree are all YouTubers who talk about makeup and beauty products, as well as have their own brands and products that they promote. And to the outside world, it kind of seemed like they were all friends. That is, of course, until May 10th, when Tati released a video called Bye Sister, which has since garnered over 50 million views, in which over the course of 40 minutes, she denounces James Charles as a friend, and proceeds to make allegations about James being, in general, a shady person, a bad friend, overly promiscuous, and maybe even a sexual predator. This video blew up. Obviously, it was trending on Twitter and YouTube. Even people who previously had no idea who either James or Tati were now talking about this, and James Charles proceeded to lose millions and millions of subscribers. For all intents and purposes, he had been cancelled by Tati. And if you were following this whole thing online, you'll know that the memes which have been born out of it are pretty good. And before we go any further, I do have a quick message from our sponsor, FreedomWorks. Have you ever lost a loved one to heart disease or cancer? Do you know anyone suffering from Parkinson's or Alzheimer's? Friends, these are horrific illnesses that are plaguing the country and killing our friends and families. But instead of helping medical researchers find cures, HHS Secretary Alex Azar is pushing socialist regulations that'll set medical innovation back decades. That is not acceptable. So please go to www.freedomworks.org/Lauren to tell Secretary Azar to fix patients, not prices. If we let Azar allow foreign governments to dictate the price of drugs for American patients, we will see US-based medical research, which leads the world, come to a screeching halt. Promising new research will be cast aside as investment in biopharmaceutical innovation dries up, just like in Europe. Thankfully, FreedomWorks is leading the charge to stop this big government plot once and for all, but they can't do it themselves. They need your help. That's why we're asking you, our audience, to go to www.freedomworks.org/Lauren to tell Secretary Azar to fix patients, not prices. Help FreedomWorks stop Secretary Azar's terrible regulatory price control agenda by going to www.freedomworks.org/Lauren. Tell him to fix patients, not prices. You can go there and take action now. That's www.freedomworks.org/Lauren. Like I said before, the makeup community is no stranger to drama. In fact, there's an entire genre of channel on YouTube that exists solely to talk about drama in the makeup community, and they actually get quite a lot of views. So this scandal wasn't a first time kind of thing, but still, Tati's video was different. I mean, we even had people like H3H3 and PewDiePie talking about this whole thing, at which, spoiler alert, they're not usually the type of people who comment on drama in the makeup community. James Charles being cancelled had become a cultural phenomenon, and after thinking about it for a while, I think I've figured out exactly why this story became so popular. James Charles is only 19 years old, and until recently, he had over 16 million YouTube subscribers. He is objectively one of the youngest and most successful people in his industry, and as tabloids have shown us for decades, if not centuries, the only thing people love more than celebrities is hating celebrities. I mean, as sick as it is, you have to admit that the only thing more satisfying than watching someone be built up to success is watching them be torn down in the most brutal way imaginable. Not only was Golden Boy James Charles being accused of backstabbing and even sexual misconduct, but he was being accused by someone who was once one of his closest friends. Mind blown. That is some hot tea. And don't get me wrong, in light of these allegations, I completely understand why people in that industry or his fans and subscribers would be concerned and interested. If someone you support or that a lot of your friends support does turn out to be this awful person, then I think you're completely justified in wanting to know. Of course, people don't want to be complicit in the popularity and success of a crappy person, especially if that crappy person is apparently using their celebrity as a means to manipulate people sexually. I get all that 100%, and to be clear, I'm not saying that we shouldn't hold public figures accountable for their actions. That to me is not cancel culture, that's just accountability. What is cancel culture, though, is the absolute sheer joy and cruelty and bandwagoning that took place in light of Tati's video. People were throwing out James Charles products that they had already bought. People were demanding that brands sever ties with him. He was getting death threats, and remember, all of this was in response to unsubstantiated allegations. People were happy that he was failing. And I'm guilty of this too, by the way. I am also part of the problem. I have been a huge fan of Tati's for years. I'm one of those subscribers of hers who watches almost every single video. So when Tati released that video of hers, it didn't matter that I didn't really know a lot about James Charles and wasn't really familiar with his stuff to begin with. If my girl says this is what happened, then that's what happened. Team Tati all the way. Well, as we all, especially Tati, learned this past Saturday though, cancel culture giveth and cancel culture taketh away. You see, what's interesting about cancel culture is that it really stems from an us versus them mob mentality. But the thing about mobs is that they are notoriously fickle. On Saturday, James Charles posted an again 40-minute video titled No More Lies. And as of this recording, it has almost 30 million views. In his video, James, armed with screenshots of text conversations, pretty much debunks everything Tati said in her video. And not only that, but he also seemingly exposes Jeffree Star, who is another big beauty YouTuber, for being kind of a bully. Jeffree Star also has this super huge platform, and after Tati's video, he released a series of tweets essentially saying that everything Tati had said in her video was true. He basically also vouched that James was in fact a sexual predator, but Sister James wasn't having any of that. If you want to know more about this whole thing, you can watch the full videos yourself, but right now we are at a point where James is actually gaining subscribers again, and Tati and Jeffree are losing them. So currently James is uncancelled, and now Tati and Jeffree are cancelled. And as big a deal as this drama is right now, it's just a fact that in about a week, most of us will have moved on and be talking about someone else. Because online, there is never a shortage of people being cancelled. I mean, recently gamer Pro Jared was found to have been cheating on his wife and maybe soliciting underage fans. He was cancelled. Trisha Paytas, another huge YouTuber, it turns out ghosted someone who had flown to LA specifically to collab with her, and then she lied about it. She's cancelled. Jake Paul and Logan Paul, they've both at different times been cancelled, I'm pretty sure. Game of Thrones, the last season, that has been awful. The showrunners, D&D, they're cancelled, that's for sure. Fans are actually so disappointed with the last season that there's now actually a petition with almost 1 million signatures for HBO to remake it with different writers. Cancel culture is everywhere, and what makes it so toxic isn't calling out people when they do bad things. There's nothing wrong with that inherently, and it's actually a necessary thing. No, it's the cruel and really vindictive pleasure that so many of us take in watching someone else's misery, which can best be summed up in a term called Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude is basically feeling joy at someone else's misfortune. And it's not a new concept. Unfortunately, I think it's just part of human nature. But it is something that has been cultivated and is especially prominent in the age of social media. Humans have always been petty in that we tend to delight in the downfall of people we don't like, but it's not until social media that people started reaching these huge amounts of fame with millions of supporters and detractors, and it's not until social media that downfalls became so public. And like I said earlier, Schadenfreude-driven cancel culture exists in every aspect of society nowadays, including politics. In the political community, just like the beauty community, we love and thrive on drama. There is a particular type of Schadenfreude that is based entirely on group identity. As Scotty Hendricks writes, this is called aggression-based Schadenfreude. He writes that, quote, often improving the group you're in can require the defeat of other groups. This kind of Schadenfreude is the one you might feel when your favorite team's rival loses a game to someone else and can't make the playoffs, even though your team is already long out of the running. This kind of Schadenfreude, the one based on group identity like left-wing versus right-wing, conservative versus liberal, Democrat versus Republican, is the kind we see most often in the political community. And what I've noticed as someone who's been around long enough to have been canceled, probably multiple times at this point, is what makes cancel culture in the political community different than other communities is that because of this whole group identity thing, which is so much stronger here than other places, a lot of the times the people who cancel you were never actually your supporters to begin with. Like how the Women's March has tried to cancel Tucker Carlson for allegedly saying racist things, even though pretty sure none of you guys were fans of his to begin with. Dave Rubin was recently canceled by verified lefty Twitter users for having Mike Cernovich on his show, even though I'm pretty sure none of the people upset by Mike's appearance were fans of Dave to begin with. And I'm also pretty sure that Dave's actual fans do like that he talks to a variety of different people. In the political sphere, in my opinion, cancel culture is even more toxic because people use it as a weapon against people who they never even liked in the first place. And politics now also highlights another way that cancel culture is just so destructive, in that when someone is canceled, they're not just wrong, they're not just over. When someone is canceled, that means they are a terrible person, and if you continue to support or associate with them, you are also a terrible person. Go back like a week ago and look for any comments that were defending James Charles. I can bet that those were not well received. And likewise, fast forward to right now and look at what people are saying to anyone defending Tati or Jeffree Star. I can bet it's not nice. It is not socially acceptable to stand for someone once they've been canceled, and I think this is part of the reason why politics today is so divisive. Each team is trying to cancel people in the other team even though they were never fans to begin with, and once that happens, they also have to cancel anyone who continues to defend or hang out with the person who was originally canceled, so then it just ends up being that both teams have canceled the entirety of the other team. And the last thing I'm going to say about cancel culture in the political community is that it's gotten so bad that we're at the point where no matter what guest I have on my show, and I have guests on my show weekly, there is at least a handful of people who tell me that I'm canceled just for talking to them. In the political community, we are especially prone to purity testing. So what that means is that we'll cancel people just for not agreeing with us enough. Sure, Ben Shapiro may be one of the biggest names in conservative commentary, but he's not as pro-Trump as he should be, plus he's kind of a neocon, so he's cancelled. He needs to be punished for not having all of the correct views that I do. Sure, Blair White may be an outspoken supporter of free speech and a staunch critic of social justice gender nonsense, but you know what? She's trans, so cancelled. Sure, Tommy Robinson may be one of the loudest voices in support of protecting British culture and values and people being able to control who comes in and out of their countries, but you know what? He's not as against immigration as I think he should be, so he's cancelled. Sure, Sargon may be someone who is affecting real change in the political establishment, but you know what? He got into some drama with this other YouTuber that I watch, so cancelled. Those are the type of comments that I see every single time I engage with another political commentator or activist on my channel. And I also see them anytime I appear on someone else's channel about me. And you know what? If that's the kind of attitude that we're going to have about other people in our movement, about the most vocal supporters of our movement, then we're screwed. The problem with cancel culture is that if you wait long enough, everybody is going to be cancelled. So long story short, I guess what I'm trying to say in this video is that humanity can be some toxic bitch. This isn't an easy problem to solve, and we don't want things to swing too far the other way where now we can't criticize anyone, but we have got to get a hold of this cancel culture that's happening. Number one, don't believe everything you hear. Whether it's Dave Rubin apparently being funded by the Koch brothers, spoiler alert, he's not, or Tati just making her James Charles video to boost her own subscribers, I really doubt that was it. Don't believe something bad about someone just because you don't like them. Alright, I've heard enough outrageous crap about myself that is apparently true to know that people lie on the internet all the time. Number two, don't bandwagon. Don't start hating someone just because you see everyone else hating them. Look at their content for yourself and decide on your own whether you want to support them. Number three, don't forget that people, even people you engage with on the internet, are still people. Someone doesn't lose their humanity just because they have different political opinions than you, or because they talk to someone you don't like, or even because they made a mistake in their career. No one's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. We're all gonna need forgiveness at some point, and I feel like when it comes to cancel culture, we all just magically forget that, which is such a shame. Those are just my thoughts on cancel culture, and as always, I would love to know what you guys think. Why is cancel culture so big right now, and what can we do to dial it back? Let me know, but that's it for now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.
Hello.
Hey man, how's it going? Man, I love that shirt. Where'd you get it? Honestly, right, the whole thing with that, it just literally, I didn't know what I was going to do in that press conference, but I told Dank just before, I was like, mate, we're fixing bayonets and we're going over the top. I don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to give it to the commies, you know what I mean? And he was just like, yeah, all right, man, I'm with you, I'm with you. And it was just like I was flying. I didn't know what I was going to say, and I'm glad I got something good out of it for you. Yeah, it's hilarious. Oh, Jesus. But sorry, what's your name?
Nice, Gage.
Gage, nice to meet you, Gage.
Nice to meet you. Well, I've been a fan of yours for a couple of years, since I was about 15, and before then I believed UKIP was racist, Tommy Robinson was racist, etc., etc. Yeah. So I wanted to thank you for providing me with an alternative perspective. And the thing I wanted to ask is, I know a lot of people, I'm not going to say most, but a lot of people who just take the news at face value and don't do any of their own research. I don't really argue online just because I'm not good at the spotting arguments. I feel like I could write an essay better than I could have an argument.
It's probably not productive anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But for people I meet in my real life, how do you do you have any idea how I can like get through to them and just get them to start doing their own research?
Okay, so it depends on the person, obviously, which is apparently going to be a controversial thing I'm about to say. These things do. So it really depends on why they're invested in what they believe, and you have to know that person. You have to know the sort of thing that they're going to respond to. You can't just belligerently come in and say, well, this is this and you're wrong. And
that's what I mean. The nicest way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. That puts them on the defensive, and suddenly they don't want to listen to you. Now they're in argumentation mode, and they're just defending their sort of like the territory they've staked out. I think you have to ask them why they believe the things they believe, and when you get to a point where they're saying, well, I think this is true, and you can prove that it's not true, that's the time to say, well, this suggests otherwise. But you've got to do it in a sort of gentle way, because you can't persuade people by shouting at them. And I've learned that the hard way over many years. It's just shouting that this is bad, I don't like it, is not going to persuade them. Yeah, you've got to take it slowly and carefully. And this honestly goes for anyone who wants to share any of these ideas. The way that the sort of current philosophical structure of public dialogue is set up is to deliberately hedge out any dissent about certain precepts, and they get just branded racist, sexist, all these buzzwords. And so you've got to be clever. You've got to be a nimble navigator in this regard. You've got to navigate your way through the sort of maze of how they got to where they are, and then slowly walk them back on things. But you can't do it quickly, and it can't be belligerently. But if you all do, just like, if you work on just trying to show one person that this thing that they believe actually isn't true, then that's one more person, and
one person at a time, sort of thing.
Exactly, one step at a time. Yeah.
One more quick question. Can I buy you a pint later?
Of course you can.
Right. Thank you very much.
Of course you can. Thank you. Who's going to say no?
We're having a conversation. I'm deciding I'm going to listen to you. Right? That's different than how people generally communicate, because usually when they communicate, they're doing something like, okay, we're going to have a conversation, and I'm going to tell you why I'm right, and I'll win if you agree. Or maybe you're having a conversation where, I don't know what you're trying to do. Maybe you're trying to impress the person you're talking to. So you're not listening to them at all. You're just thinking about what you're going to say next. Okay, so that's not this. This is, you might have something to tell me. And so I'm going to listen on the off chance that you'll tell me something that would really be useful for me to know. And so you could think about it as an extension of the Piagetian. Piaget talked about the fundamentally important element of knowledge being to describe how knowledge is sought, the process by which knowledge is generated. Well, if you agree with me and I find that out, I know nothing more than I knew before. I just know what I knew before. And maybe I'm happy about that because, it didn't get challenged. But I'm no smarter than I was before. But maybe you're different than me, and so while I'm listening to you, you'll tell me something I don't like. Maybe it's something I find contemptible or difficult, whatever. Maybe you'll tell me something I don't know, and then I won't be quite as stupid. And then maybe I won't run painfully into quite as many things. And that's a really useful thing to know, especially if you live with someone and you're trying to make long-term peace with them, is they're not the same as you. And their way they look at the world and the facts that they pull out of the world aren't the same as your facts. And even though you're going to be overwhelmed with the proclivity to demonstrate that you're right, it is the case that two brains are better than one. And so maybe 9 of the 10 things they tell you are dispensable, or maybe even 49 out of 50, but one thing, all you need to get out of the damn conversation is one thing you don't know. And one of the things that's very cool about a good psychotherapeutic session is that the whole conversation is like that. All you're doing is trying to express the truth of the situation as clearly as possible. That's it. And so, now, Roger's proposition, and I'll tell you why he derived it, was that if you have a conversation like that with someone, it will make both of you better. It'll make both of you psychologically healthier. So there's an implicit presupposition that the exchange of truth is curative. Well, that's a very cool idea. I mean, it's a very deep idea. I think it's the most profound idea. It's the idea upon which Western civilization, although not only Western civilization, is actually predicated. The idea that truth produces health. But for Rogers, that was the entire purpose of the Psychotherapeutic Alliance. You come to see me because you want to be better. You don't even know what that means necessarily, neither do I. We're going to figure that out together. But you come and you say, look, things are not acceptable to me, and maybe there's something I could do about that. So that's the minimal precondition to engage in therapy. Something's wrong, you're willing to talk about it truthfully, and you want it to be better. Without that, the therapeutic relationship does not get off the ground. And so then you might ask, well, what relationships are therapeutic? And the answer to that would be, if you have a real relationship, it's therapeutic. If it isn't, what you have is not a relationship. God only knows what you have. You're a slave, they're a tyrant, You know, you're both butting heads with one another. It's a primate dominance hierarchy dispute. Oh, I don't know, you're like two cats in a barrel or two people with their hands around each other's throats. But what you have is not a relationship. So, all right. We may say that the greater the communicated congruence of experience, awareness, and behavior on the part of one individual, that's a reference to the same idea that I was describing with regards to Jung. So let's say you come and talk to me and you want things to go well. Well, I'm going to have to more or less be one thing, because if I'm all over the place, you can't trust any continuity in what I say. There's no reason for you to believe that I'm capable of actually telling you, I'm capable of expressing anything that's true. So the truth is something that emerges as a consequence of getting yourself lined up and beating all the, what would you call, all the impurities out of your soul, for lack of a better word. You have to be integrated for that to happen, and you do that at least in part by wanting to tell the truth. The more the ensuing relationship will involve a tendency towards reciprocal communication with the same qualities. So one of the things, I've been quite influenced by Rogers, one of the things I try to do in my therapeutic sessions is first of all to listen, to really listen. And then while I listen, I watch, and while I'm listening, things will happen in my head. You know, maybe I'll get a little image of something, or I'll get a thought or a question will emerge, and then I'll just tell the person what that is. But it's sort of directionless, you know. It's not like I have a goal, except that we're trying to make things better. I'm on the side of the person, I'm on the side of the part of the person that wants things to be better, not worse. And so then those parts of us have a dialogue, and the consequence of that dialogue is that certain things take place, and then I'll just tell the person what happened. And it isn't that I'm right. That's not the point. The point is that they get to have an hour where someone actually tells them what they think. Here's the impact you're having on me. You know, this is making me angry. This is making me happy. This is really interesting. This reminds me of something that you said an hour ago that I don't quite understand. And the whole point is not for either person to make the proposition or convince the other that their position is correct, but merely to have an exchange of experience about how things are set up. And it's extraordinarily useful for people, because it's often difficult for anyone to find anyone to talk to that will actually listen. And so another thing that's really strange about this listening is that if you listen to people, they will tell you the weirdest bloody things so fast you just cannot believe it. So if you're having a conversation with someone and it's dull, it's because you're stupid. That's why. You're not listening to them properly, because they're weird. They're like wombats or albatrosses or rhinoceroses or something. Like, they're strange creatures. And so if you were actually communicating with them and they were telling you how weird they really are, it would be anything but boring. So, and you can ask questions. That's a really good way of listening. But, you know, one of Roger's points is, well, you have to be oriented properly in order to listen. And the orientation has to be, look, what I want out of this conversation is that the place we both end up is better than the place we left. That's it. That's what I'm after. And if you're not after that, you got to think, why the hell wouldn't you be after that? What could you possibly be after that would be better than that? You walk away smarter and more well-equipped for the world than you were before you had the conversation, and so does the other person. Well, maybe if you're bitter and resentful and angry and anxious and, you know, generally annoyed at the world, then that isn't what you want. You want the other person to walk away worse, and you too, because you're full of revenge. But, you know, you'll get what you want if you do that. So we know from our research that such empathic understanding, it's already defined that. I want to hear you. I want to hear what you have to say so we can clarify it and move forward. I want to have your best interests in mind, and mine as well, but, you know, both at the same time. Your families too, if we can manage that. We're after making things better. We know from our research that such empathic understanding with a person, not about him, is such an effective approach that it can bring about major changes in personality. Some of you may be feeling that you listen well to people and that you have never seen such results. The chances are very great that you have not been listening in the manner that I've described. Fortunately, I can suggest a little experiment that you can do to test the quality of your understanding. The next time you get into an argument with your wife or your friend or a small group of friends, stop the discussion for a moment and, for an experiment, institute this rule. Each person can speak up for himself only after he has first restated the ideas and feelings of the previous speaker accurately. What accurately means is they have to agree with your restatement. Now that's an annoying thing to do, because if someone is talking to you and you disagree with them, the first thing you want to do is take their argument, make the stupidest possible thing out of it that you can, that's the straw man, and then demolish it. It's like, so then you can walk away feeling good about it, and you primate dominated them really nicely. But that isn't what you do. You say, okay, well, I'm going to take what you told me, and maybe I'm even going to make your argument stronger than the one you made. That's useful if you're dealing with someone that you have to live with, because maybe they can't bloody well express themselves very well, but they have something to say. So you make their argument strong. All right, then you see what this would mean. It would mean that before presenting your own point of view, it would be necessary for you to really achieve the other speaker's frame of reference, to understand his thoughts and feelings so well that you could summarize them for him. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But if you'll try it, you'll find that it's the most difficult thing that you've ever done. Okay, good. We'll leave it at that, and then we'll see you on Tuesday.
N3 Radio is a non-profit teaching platform for non-professionals. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or professional use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
This episode of Don't Tread on Me is sponsored by Perky's Paperbacks. Check them out.
Hey, did you see that post online about Julie? I totally wrote it. Wasn't it hilarious? Is all of that true? Who cares? She's done anyways.
Are you talking about that post about Julie?
Yeah, funny, right?
No, but that post about you was.
What post?
Oh, you didn't hear? You're fat, you're ugly, you're stupid, and oh yeah, you smell too. The whole school saw it, no big deal.
That's so mean. Did they really write that about me?
No, but how does it feel?
Sometimes you can feel all alone when being bullied. That's when you can really use a friend. If you see someone you know being bullied online, let them know they're not alone. Stand up now, support a friend, save a life. For more information on cyberbullying, visit stopthemean.wordpress.com or call our hotline at 1-800-555-STOP.
The Jazzlands, only here on N3 Radio. RC brings you the best in past and present jazz music. Live, Wednesday, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern, only here on N3Radio.com.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
In the club, rock and roll and bang your head with me. Rock and roll and bang your head with me.
Bang your head. DJ Kenny Starr brings you the best mixes of hip-hop and rap just like back in club. Starting every day live, 12 midnight Eastern, 9 Pacific, only here on N3Radio.com. Tune in.
Bang your head, just bang your head. I'm in the club rocking out to a guitar. Bet you did.
It's time to start.
Rock concert movement number 1. The basic head bob. Ready, go.
The Artist Spotlight, only here on N3Radio.com. Robert brings you the best and the greatest hits from your favorite artists. Live Thursdays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, only here on N3Radio.com.
We'll turn to Perky'sPaperbacks.com for the best in
What do they have? Hey, how do you like reading a book? You know, an actual book. We'll turn to Perky's paperback stock. Perky paperback. How do you like sitting back and reading an actual book? You know, feeling it's getting a little awkward with the whole feeling with the thumb and the finger. You know. Still like the feeling of turning a page with your. Why don't you turn to Perky's paperback stock? It's just not working. It isn't. It really isn't. Stop. Read a book. No, that doesn't work, does it? You know, when you could actually turn the pages and feel I hate this. I hate this so much. I've done so many takes. I hate this. Old sci-fi, mystery, western, and other specialty paperback books, and you can find all of them once again at perkyspaperbacks.com to find the old stuff that nobody reads anymore. That's stupid. Wow, let me try again. Hey, do you like sitting back and reading an old paperback book? Well, turn to perkyspaperbacks.com for the old sci-fi, mystery, western, and other specialty paperback books at perkyspaperbacks.com, a special sponsor of N3 Radio, and at n3radio.com. Yes! Are we clear? We're good? Yes! Yeah, it only took less than 20. Less than 20 takes is always good.
You're on your way to meet up with friends, but you can't seem to get anywhere quickly. You don't want your friends to be annoyed, so you text. You're on your way. "5 seconds is the average time your eyes are off the road while texting while driving. Make sure you get where you're going.
Let the laundry hit the floor. Let the laundry hit the floor. Let the laundry hit the floor. Let the laundry hit
A twisted reality for twisted people. A talk show for the truly insane. Join Robert and Stacy for some truly interesting talk radio on no excuses, no apologies, no regrets. Weird stories, epic music, and more. Live Thursday starting at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, only here on N3 Radio.
Before the earth, before the sun, and before the light of the stars, when all was darkness and chaos, the old gods, the forgotten gods, ruled the darkness. But what was theirs now belongs to the world of light and substance. The old gods, the rightful masters, are jealous, watching mankind with a hatred that is as boundless as the stars, with plans for the destruction of man that are beyond imagining.
The Den of Iniquities, only here on N3 Radio. Ambrosio brings you the best in metal, death metal, goth, and industrial, also much, much more. Starting live Fridays and Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, only here on n3radio.com. Listen in.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Sábado Latino, only here on N3 Radio. Erica mixes the best in past and present Spanish pop music, reggaeton, and much, much more. Live, Saturdays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, only here on n3radio.com.
Tired of listening to Sweet Home Alabama and that same damn Eagles and Aerosmith song on your favorite classic rock radio station? Come take a bite out of the sandwich with me, your host, Cold Turkey, every Saturday night beginning at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific, only here at N3 Radio and N3Radio.com.
When friends don't stop friends from drinking and driving. Friends die from drinking and driving. Friends die from drinking and driving can kill a friendship.
Join your host, La Chismosa, live here on N3 Radio, taking you back for our cruising classics. Sundays, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Nos vemos.
As a Burger Shack employee for the past 3 years, if there's one thing I've learned, it's that if you're craving White Castle, the burgers here just don't cut it. In fact, just thinking about those tender little White Castle burgers, with those little itty-bitty grilled onions that just explode in your mouth like flavor crystals every time you bite into one, just makes me want to burn this motherfucker down. Come on, Boogie, let's burn this motherfucker down! Come on, Boogie, let's burn this motherfucker down! Let's burn it down! Let's burn it!
N3 Radio in the mix.